Welcome to New Europe Studio in Brussels. Today we are going to talk about Ukraine. We have a guest from Ukraine, Ruslana. Welcome to Brussels, to our studio. And welcome also to Henri Malosse, President of the European Social and Economic Committee in Brussels. Hello. And we immediately start talking about Ukraine, about the news now. Can you update us, Ruslana, of the tragic situation that Ukraine is living right now?
I'd like to say that the political dialogue in Ukraine is now at a total dead end. The government is demonstrating an extremely aggressive attitude vis-à-vis of the Ukrainian people. And from all that we see, we understand that we are now indeed in a dictatorship. And the president of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych, legally elected as such, is not at all demonstrating any legality and democracy in his way of being. But I think we can also add, if you remember correctly, that Hitler was also elected in a democratic fashion. I want to say that the degree of aggression that we are seeing on behalf of the government at this point vis-à-vis of the peaceful demonstrators has come now to a crisis. Everybody, the whole world, always suggested that we should enter into a peaceful dialogue with this government. But today, this very day, the police were given order to fire upon the peaceful protesters. And moreover, the Yanukovych party, the party in power, party of regions, refused to put the question of the constitution, of the return to the constitution of 2004 on the agenda of the Ukrainian parliament this morning. What I infer from this is that the Kremlin has told Yanukovych that he would have more money if he would do away with the Maidan, and that is what we have begun to see this morning. Yanukovych very likely has promised the Kremlin that he would do away with Maidan. It does not matter who initiated the process, whether it was the Kremlin or whether it was Yanukovych, but we are seeing now the beginning of the end of the Maidan. Under your very eyes, a young European country is going to be destroyed. You are letting Europe be killed in Ukraine. Is that the right thing to do? Is it just a video clip that we can watch on the TV? Or do we need to do something very real about it? You know very well, you who are Europe, you know that you can stop it. Working through sanctions, you can stop this process. Today, you can stop this warfare. You can stop this warfare against simple, ordinary, peaceful people. You can stop this horrible, bloody dictatorship. In 1938, remember, all of Europe watched Hitler and didn't do anything. We cannot allow this to take place once again. The Ukrainian people has not merited that kind of future. The Ukrainian flag and the European flag is being drenched with Ukrainian blood. We cannot be silent. You cannot continue not to act.
Thank you for these passionate words. And now Europe. Europe can do a lot to stop and to make pressure on Russia. What's your idea on what Europe should do?
First of all, I would say that we are experiment very crucial days and a crucial day. And now, looking at what happened today in Kiev, we can see really that Europe should have done more. Should have done more in the last weeks and months, because as Ruslana said, we have in European Economic and Social Committee in a resolution 3 weeks ago urged the European Council to adopt sanctions against the authors of the crime and the brutalities. Unfortunately, due to this lack of will, lack of political courage from a certain number of member states. We had no sanctions. And we see what happens today, but the brutality is going on, unfortunately. So this is the first thing I would say, but I'm quite sad today to see that unfortunately we were right, where we said some weeks ago, some months ago, European Union should act more clearly, not just to say weaker that we can discuss with them, political debate, and not to talk directly to people from Maidan and not to act. The European Union has to act. Of course, never too late, but it's very late. So never too late to do what? Never too late, first of all, to have sanctions, ban of visa, to freeze the assets of all the people involved in the repression. And we can do that now. We have a legal instrument, exists. We don't have to invent anything. We don't want to meet 28 ministers. The European Union can decide that now in the next minutes. Second thing is that it's important to give positive sign, not to the Ukrainian government, of course, but to the Ukrainian population, the Ukrainian people, facilitating the visa, deliverance of visa, free visa. I would just say that today we'll see what will happen in the next hours and days, but probably a lot of repression. So we should open our borders, first of all, for wounded persons, to help them, to bring them free in the West European hospitals, to host the students who are repressed in the university because they participate to the uprising, to a protest, and they got no subsidies, no allowance, nothing. We could welcome them in the European Union universities. We should, in a more long term, prepare a more, I would say, political approach concerning Ukraine, say that Ukraine will always be welcome in the European Union, will welcome to be closer to us if, of course, the regime change, if the democracy really now become strong, as it is unfortunately not the case today in Ukraine. And we could then imagine, for example, to have important funding, financial support, not for the government, but for the people, for the local municipalities fighting for democracy, for the NGOs, for the activists, for the local civil society organization, for, I would say, the social partners, for the small and medium-sized enterprise, not for oligarchs. For all this, the European Union should be much more generous as a perspective. But as I said, we are experimenting very sad and very difficult days. And today the answer, the political answer of the European Union facing these events must be very clear. Stop the violence, stop the repression. You are not Democrats. As Ruslana say, you act like dictators. And if you act like dictators, European Union should consider you as dictators. That means stop to talk. We don't have to talk to dictators. We cannot accept that. We should not have double standard. This should be not, of course, Ukraine and in other parts of the world. European Union should have the courage to face our values. The most important asset of the European Union are our European democratic values. So we don't talk to dictators. And we have to call Mr. Yanukovych, the Ukrainian government, as they act like they act today, as dictators. And stop to talk to them. And send a very clear message of solidarity to Ukrainian people. This is what I expect from my colleagues, or the President of the European institution. I expect them to act now.
Thank you. Now we continue with Ruslana. You were many times in Brussels. Now you know the European institutions more and more. Which is your feeling among your meetings with the European institutions? Do you think the EU can really do something to help your movement?
The most important thing that I want to say, and I address myself to Europeans, to the European people, not to the politicians. I would like to ask the Europeans to influence their political leaders to do something. What is most important is that the promises of sanctions now become concrete reality. I have just heard from Lithuanians here the following, that if Ukraine is occupied once again, and if it will return to the kind of structure there was in the Soviet times, the next will be us, the Lithuanians. You cannot, you in Europe, look at all of this. For the time being, the most concrete actions that have been undertaken are those that have been undertaken together with Mr. Malosse, for which I'm very grateful to him. And I would like to thank Saryusz Wolski more particularly. Up to this time, these
допомагають мені,
only people that have been helping in a very concrete fashion and helping me personally in the process. It is very important for us that Europe come finally to the point of taking final decisions on Ukraine. You have to have a deadline for these decisions. It said indeed that if violence and acts of violence would be committed once again, that you would introduce sanctions. And the last resolution in Strasbourg addressed this specific question. Today, this morning, we are seeing blood once again in Kyiv. We know that the Berkut, the riot troops, are throwing grenades on peaceful demonstrators. The government has tricked the demonstrators in that they said that they required that Hrushevsky Street, which was the place of the violent manifestations in January, be opened up with a checkpoint, and also required that the Kyiv city administration be freed from demonstrators. We, as a gesture of goodwill, did what was asked of us, and what is the result? The riot troops are on the Maidan this morning. Be realistic. They want to destroy the Maidan by every possible means. If they destroy the Maidan, they will destroy any existence or hope of European values in Ukraine. How can you, Europeans, continue to believe in your European values when you see them being killed under your very eyes in Ukraine?
Thank you. Mr. Malosse, what will be your next step? We heard tragic news. What will be your future action in order to support the Maidan movement?
First of all, I think we have to convince the European Council, European Commission to act now, to take sanctions, to stop to talk to the dictator, and to call what happened as a crime and as a crime from dictatorship. We will meet Mr. Fuller, Ruslana will meet Mr. Fuller, I will call Mr. Van Rompuy, Mr. Barroso, and we'll have to act now in the next hours, not after that. Let's see, of course, what the situation will be, but we should in the same time support, as I said very strongly, the Maidan activists. If they are persecuted, if they are harassed, open our border for them, support them, show them our solidarity, open our, unfortunately, a hospital for them. Politically, we should express, the European should express in a very clear and tough words, our total, I would say, it's totally unacceptable what happened these days, like in the last 2 months in Ukraine. It's totally unacceptable. And we should say that also to Mr. Putin, instead of nice smile and nice greetings in Sochi. We should express that we cannot continue to have any talks or trade relation or whatever political relation in this kind of circumstance. We should be very clear. And at the same time, I think that we should really support financially with our human resource, the civil society in Ukraine, the NGOs, the island of democracy, all the movement to promote the European values very concretely in these next days. Not just question to talk to the politicians, opposition or others. Okay, it's good to do that, but it's not the key. The key is to talk with the civil society, to give them hope that the day that they are able, with all support, to move to a real and free democratic Ukraine, we will open our borders and our arms for them. This is a double thing. To react very tough on the events, and to Kiev and to Moscow, and to use the right word. This is unacceptable. It's crimes against humanity and should be punished. But in the same time, to be open for the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people are not responsible for that. They are the victims of this repression, to be open for them. And we in the European Economic and Social Committee, for example, just today, we decided to launch some small pilot project with this island of democracy, representing this small municipality. This municipality will decide to put the European flag on the building. We decide to help them, to give them some support, some visitors, to go to the schools, to help the students, the school kids, to present them the European values. But of course, this is for the midterm. For the short term, is what happened today in Kiev. We should react and use the right word. This is unacceptable. This is a crime against humanity. A crime against humanity. There's a court of justice for that. The people responsible for that. We should freeze all the assets. We know where there are the assets, including in the European Union. We could freeze them and act now in the next hours.
Thank you very much. So we can conclude with the last message, a last short message. Ruslana.
My message is very short, but it's also a sad message. You know, whatever is happening now in Ukraine can show very clearly under what influence the things going on there, who is triggering all this, and I am sure, and I can tell you, this is not you. Right now, we do not have a democracy in Ukraine. This is dictatorship. And you can understand that only you can stop this dictatorship. We cannot do it by ourselves. We understand who is our enemy, but this enemy is too huge for us to fight against it alone.
Thank you. A last message also from Europe.
Here we are in New Europe. We have all dreamed on a new Europe, a new democratic Europe. We see now that the post-Soviet heritage in the east part of Europe is threatening the democracy, is threatening our European values. This is today the case of Ukraine. It will be tomorrow the case of other countries. It is also today the case of Russia, because the Russian civil society suffer also for this post-Soviet system, for this post-Soviet heritage. So this is our future which is in play today in Kiev, because if we are not able at our border to promote, to preserve our own values, we'll see that soon or later our own values will be defeated also here in Western Europe. We have election 25 of May. We see a lot of people are discouraged about the European institution, maybe don't go to vote, maybe we'll vote for populists, maybe we'll vote for fascists, for communists. Same thing could happen to us. We are fighting for our values, for our European values in Kiev. What happened these days in Kiev, this is the most crucial moment for the future of Europe, and for the future of our dream of a new Europe.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you also to our guests from Ukraine. I hope that we will have the possibility to have you here again in a New Europe studio, and also Mr. Malosse. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.